Our top story this morning, deadline week for many parents across Canada who are deciding if they will send their kids back to school. In parts of Ontario, they've had to make that final choice already, or they're preparing to do so today. In parts of Alberta, the deadline is just days away. Millions of Canadian children, about 5.5 million in fact, will either be returning to classrooms or learning online. Many parents are saying there's still not enough information to make the choice, and there's too much uncertainty over whether it's safe for kids to attend classes in person. School boards and governments themselves are still scrambling to put their plans into place. We're going to be talking about this a lot in the days and weeks to come. Lisa Dunbar is one of those millions of Canadian parents who has to make the decision whether to send children back to school. She has a 10-year-old daughter going into grade 5, a 13-year-old son heading into grade 8, and she herself is a teacher. She's in Brampton, Ontario this morning. Lisa, welcome to our program, and thanks for being our guest.
Thank you.
Brampton puts you in Peel District, Lisa, and your board's decision as to whether the kids are going back or not comes at noon today. Have you decided yet?
We have decided. We are going to go back to school, but also giving ourselves permission to change that decision. There's some things I'm still looking for, and hoping that some more changes come through in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, we'll talk about all of that, but your reaction, like that deep breath, yes, we have, but we haven't at a certain point. I mean, it's right down to the wire for you. Why is it such a tough decision?
I think because realistically, as a teacher and as a parent, I understand the value of in school, and it's really difficult to duplicate that experience online. But at the same time, my son struggles with fevers anytime he gets sick. My daughter has asthma. I'm still very concerned about the class size issue. So that's why it's been a really, really difficult decision.
And I think one that many parents are also wrestling with so much, just as you are. So the class size issue is one, when you said there are still things that are outstanding for you, what, even though you're leaning firmly yes, what do you still need to know concretely, finally, before you make the ultimate decision?
I think that, so like I said, class size is an issue for me. My son takes the bus to school, and we haven't heard. So the most recent plan for transportation was that buses will be running at regular capacity and students will be asked to wear masks. So I have concerns about a bus full of middle schoolers going to and from school, and social distancing would be impossible in that situation. So I'm waiting to hear about that. I'm curious to how things like lunch will be handled, where obviously you can't be wearing a mask. So there's still some questions I have that I'm waiting for some more information about, even in terms of what's the cutoff? How many cases would it need to be for there to, for school to be shut down again?
The benchmarks.
Things like that. Like I want to know what the benchmarks are. I want to know what the contingency plans are. What happens if it doesn't go as smoothly as everybody's hoping it does?
But it's pretty striking. I mean, is it to you that we're just a matter of weeks away and you still don't have firm answers to what are very significant questions?
Yeah, and that's really difficult. My son is really kind of fine about it. He's like, whatever you decide is fine with me. My daughter, on the other hand, is much more afraid, and I feel like information would help us all feel better. I'm trying to be kind of aware of the fact that nobody's ever done this before. And so we're trying to be patient, and I understand that. I know that our union and our board have met multiple times trying to really hammer out a good, solid plan. So I'm trusting and believing that more and more will come through. We've seen changes even in the last 2 weeks in terms of funding. So I know it's close, but I'm still hoping for some more changes.
There's still time and some more.
Yes.
Maybe the kids are taking advantage of these last days of being able to sleep in before they do have to go back to class, so they may not be up early this morning. But have you told them that you are at this point really firmly leaning towards sending them back? And if you have, well, what do they say?
So, like I said, my son was like, meh, no problem, whatever. My daughter cried. And I asked her why, and she said she's scared and she doesn't want to get sick. And that's really fair. So we talked through all the things we're doing to keep everybody safe. And I'll just kind of keep talking to her about it. And I'm hoping that she'll start to feel better. But it's a scary time, and they hear all of the information. They hear the conversations. They hear the news. So they know that this is a serious thing. So she's afraid.
In addition to talking to her, are you doing anything else with her? I mean, will you be practicing? Will you be running through scenarios or anything to try to get her over that fear and get her ready to return?
Definitely. So we've talked about it, and I'm trying to take her out into the community a little bit more, even doing kind of coming with me to the grocery store. So she's kind of sees that people are wearing their masks and people are doing the things that we've been asked to do. I've even just kind of talked to her about, well, what could make you feel more comfortable? So we've talked about maybe asking for kind of an outside seat in the classroom rather than being in a middle row, kind of being at the front or the back to kind of lower some of those so that we're not as close to as many people. But like I said, I am really waiting to see if I show up on the first, or if she goes to school on the first day of school and there are 25 students on her class list, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. So I'm hoping that there will be some more information around what the classroom actually looks like, what the class lists look like. And then I think some of it too, I'm afraid, if
Yes.
I'm really honest. And we're close enough that she can kind of feel that off of me.
Yes.
So I'm trying to get myself more comfortable with it so that she'll be more comfortable with it.
I want to ask about your concerns in just a second, but when you raise that scenario, if you show up at her school on day one and it's not as you're planning and it's not as you want and it's not as you've been told, will you literally turn her around and march her home and not let her go in on that first day? You will.
100%. I think I'm giving myself that
Because you do have the
permission that-
option, right? You do have the option to keep her home.
100%, and we can. There's flexibility to go kind of in or out. So if it's not comfortable, we're giving ourselves that permission. That if it's not comfortable, we're just not doing it.
Okay. Your own comfort level, as you said. I mean, you're a parent, but a teacher also a parent, and so that is a whole other separate set of issues I have to ask you. I mean, you have an understanding about all of this. You don't have a classroom this year, as I understand it, but you're going to be working in a teacher resource role, meaning you'll be in all sorts of different classrooms. So what are your own concerns, Lisa?
I have huge concerns, and sometimes you fall down the Twitter hole about little things like, well, what do you wear to school? Right? And so how do we know that we're keeping ourselves safe and we're not bringing it home? Because that's the truth. Even if I were to have my students working online, I would still be in school. So how do I protect them when I come home? I also have, older parents that I worry about transmitting it to them. And so the concerns are long, and also just getting sick myself.
Yes.
Nobody wants this. And we definitely don't want to bring it home to our families. So there are concerns about just how do we keep ourselves safe from other teachers and students who may have brought it in from the community. And I know that the board will be providing PPE, but sometimes you wonder, is that enough? We've never seen anything like this before.
You've got a great smile, but it has to be pretty overwhelming at some times, is it?
Sometimes it's a nervous smile.
Oh boy, I bet. Oh, so much to contend with. Would you mind, could we touch base with you again as maybe even back to school day arrives, just to see what the ultimate decision is in the Dunbar household? Because what a story you have, Lisa, and it's been so great to hear yours on air this morning.
Definitely.
Really
Definitely.
appreciate it. All the best to you and your children, your family. Thank you, Lisa Dunbar.
Thank you.
Morning.